Hey, what's up guys? Signal What Ifs here, and today I'm doing a new what if. I am also continuing my other what ifs. Also, I'm just gonna say this now. I am sorry that I could not upload any videos recently. Phil Moore kept on being a bastard, and I ended up figuring out a way to fix it. It was just that I did have the latest version of Phil Moore, which was the problem, so yeah. Uh, so without further ado, let's start this brand new what if, and I'll be making a part 3 of what if deku had a nice quirk after this. So yeah. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Who am I? Someone that's afraid to let go. You decide you have it, come let me know. You decide you have it, trying to let go. We start this story off with a young Inko and his Midoriya. The two rushing off to get married and getting ready to start a family. Little did they know, being an adult's tough, and they ended up coming into some financial issues and ended up going into debt. As they then thought of an idea to have kids, as if their kids have a strong quirk, then they will be able to provide for them. A fucked up motive to have a child for, but it was a motive nonetheless. And so they got to work. And 9 months later, Izuku Midoriya and his twin sister, Wanda Midoriya, were born. Except, here's the thing. Wanda and Izuku ended up not having quirks. They had an evolution beyond that, which was unable to be detected. As instead of them having the normal quirks like everyone else, they ended up developing an X generation quirk. An X generation quirk is a quirk that could not have manifested without some type of genetic mutation. It's also a quirk that is so rare to find that it's almost impossible, as it requires the user to go through what's called a quirk evolution, a stage in where a quirk becomes so powerful that it evolves and it is no longer registered as that generation's level of a quirk. Izuku and Wanda ended up both generating X generation quirks, meaning it could not be detected. So when they were 4 years old and Inko Hazashi took them to the doctor deemed them as quirkless, as they had the double jointed toe. Though with the X gene, yeah, the X generation gene, this wasn't supposed this having an extra joint or two did not mean you did not have abilities. It just means you don't have a quirk. Like literally, it's an X gene. Like, I think everybody who watches X-Men knows where I'm going with this. But yeah, nonetheless, when Inko and Hazashi heard that not just one of their kids, but both their kids were quirkless, they were distraught. And they then proceeded to abuse the two. Not just any normal abuse, they would beat them vigorously. Hizashi once attempted, when Inko wasn't home, attempted to rape young Wanda, but Izuku stopped them in time, and Hizashi, really in the mood, ended up doing Izuku instead. Yes, this is that type of what if. This is dark, isn't it? As Inko would be out. She would be getting drunk. She would come back. Hizashi had just got done with Izuku. Izuku's crying on the ground, scared. Would run to his room, where Wanda's there, sitting in a corner, who was forced to hear the screams of her brother, as Inko Midoriya was stumbling through the corridor. Once inside, Hizashi had seen Inko, and they proceed to walk over to their kids' room. Hizashi, still wanting to torment his kids more, would watch as his wife comes in with a beer bottle in hand and proceeds to try and hit them. She missed the beer bottle, luckily, but that didn't stop her from beating Wanda half to death, as the two kids were in utter trauma. They were terrified. And one day when they were this was them were sorry. This was when they were 4, by the way. I'm just saying that now. This all happened while they were 4. Yeah. Fucked up. But here's what happened. This would have been going on for about 2 years before Inko and Hizashi finally decided we're going to try having another kid and we're going to abandon these two. As they then say that they're going to go on a family outing. Izuku, clearly traumatized by his father, and Wanda, her mother, would proceed to get inside the vehicle without hesitation as they did not want them to get hurt. So, Inko then drives. Yeah, Hizashi's not there right now, by the way. Inko then drives. She drives far, very far. She stopped a couple times to get gas, and they ended up being around basically a forest. They were around mountains. And when they stopped, Izuku and Wanda were confused because they didn't know what was going on. Inko then said, "Alright, get out, brats," as Izuku and Wanda hesitantly but quickly got out. As Inko then went out the car and took Izuku by the throat and pulled Wanda by the hair as and chucked them off a cliff. Inko then went to her car, started it up again, and left. We cut back to Izuku. As Izuku and Wanda are screaming, Wanda then uses her powers. Her powers of magic. Her abilities as a Scarlet Witch, and stops her and her brother's descent. As this was only for a brief moment, as Wanda did not know what she just did. And so they were falling again. But this time, it wasn't Wanda who saved them, it was Izuku. As when Izuku was falling, time had seemed to stop. And he then used his body and started to walk, as if he was walking on the ragged edge of the cliff. And he grabbed his sister and started walking towards the ground. Once on the ground, time had seemed to resume, but to Wanda, It looked as though her brother had almost teleported in a blur, a silver blur, as their characteristics were quite distinctive, as Izuku's hair would have turned white, then turned silver, then solidifying in that color. And Wanda, her hair would have turned brunette, not being completely red, but being red, as their abilities had manifested fully. Wanda then started glowing, as she then started releasing a red aura, and her hands started releasing magic. And Izuku, time just seemed to keep slowing down for him. Whenever he moved, he started to slow down. But to him, everything slowed down. But to Wanda's perspective, she sees her brother moving at stupidly high speeds. As also, just letting you know now, they never got the chance to meet Bakugo, so I'm just saying that. Also, yeah, once completed, not completed, once their transformation was done with, their X generation quirks had manifested. To Wanda and Izuku, their quirks, they're they think they're quirks, but in reality they're something better. As Wanda and Izuku start talking, they start questioning why they did this to us. They torment them for years and then they just chuck them aside? Wanda was sad, but Izuku was furious. Izuku was getting angry. Like, he started thinking everything that happened. Like, he started getting angrier and angrier as he then starts unknowingly activating his quirk. As Wanda sees a silver aura around Izuku. As Izuku then blitzes off. About a couple meters or so away, Izuku instinctively starts running. He starts running in a circle, and he does not stop running. No. He starts running faster and faster and faster. To his stopped perspective, he's moving as if a blur, being so fast that not even time itself could stop him. He started moving faster and faster, and this in turn started creating a tornado. This tornado was made of just pure debris, pure acceleration, no deceleration. It did not stop moving. As it stayed stationary where Izuku was, Wanda, witnessing all of this, tries to calm down her brother. But Izuku seems as though he wants to run himself into oblivion, but Wanda, using her magic, instinctively stopped Izuku where he was. And when she let go, Izuku had just fallen to his knees, broke down crying, as he then remembers everything they put them through just to abandon them. Like, why couldn't they have just abandoned them in the beginning? They didn't have to put them through all of that. As Wanda then hugs her brother. But Izuku, he hugged back, and Wanda started crying herself. Now, they're in a forest. No home, no shelter, no nothing. But that did not discourage them, as he then says, sis, we need to figure out a way to survive. As Wanda then thinks for a second, and Izuku also does as well, as they both say at the same time, we need to make a place to live. As Wanda then starts trying to use her magic on objects. She then mistakenly lifts up a tree. Not completely, it almost uprooted the ground, but she almost did it. Izuku seeing this, he then thinks to himself, maybe her quirk is, maybe she can stop stuff? Maybe she has telekinesis, a very strong one, or I don't know. Maybe we could use this. As they then start devising a way to make a shelter. And in about a day or two of cold, sleepless nights, they finally end up making a small cabin with two wooden beds that's covered with leaves inside as cushions. As the two finally rest, we time skip to when they're 14. Over the years, they have been able to live with the trauma they have suffered. They've been able to bury it, to get over it. But they also developed separations anxiety. The two were inseparable. They did not want to leave the other, and if they did, they would get separation anxiety. As over the years, they also ended up mastering their quirks, and they also learned that their quirks were not like normal quirks, as the quirks usually have drawbacks, but they seem to have none. So, yeah, Izuku and his sister Wanda ended up learning how to survive. Well, not much of learning, considering that they've always had to do it since they were 4. They would always have to cook for their parents, and they would always have to clean for their parents. So, and they would always have to usually get their own food or find a way to get food somewhere else, as they would never really get fed. So, yeah, everything was around normal. Well, not really normal, everything was the usual. Izuku would go out and hunt animals to get food, sometimes come across people and steal some picnic stuff if they ever got any food from them. He would also sometimes he would also sometimes run out all the way to the city and steal some food. And he would also just basically get water and food and ingredients. Wanda would usually think of ways that they could improve their living situation. Wanda and Izuku had also learned that their powers could do much more than they could think of, ever think of. Wanda learned that she can sometimes also warp a bit of reality. So that's what she did. She made a house, a real house. And this house was just random in the forest, so of course it's not going to go unnoticed. As a pro hero by the name of Eraserhead was chasing a villain. This villain leading him into a forest. As Eraserhead was running through the forest, they then came across a house. The villain started running towards the house, and Wanda, being still in there, instinctively heard it, and like not really heard it, she saw it, and she instantly stopped the guy in his tracks. And Izuku was running back with food. He had just gotten there, and he sees this guy, and then he sees Eraserhead just following behind him. And he then just rushes inside, places all the food, all the ingredients, all the snacks on the table, and then he just runs back out to see what's going on. As Eraserhead sees these two kids, one with brunette hair and one with silver hair, she then thinks to herself, well, not to herself, to himself, sorry. He then thinks to himself, what are kids doing out here? And when did this house get here? As they're 14 right now, by the way. They've also been able to learn things, as they've also been able to steal any type of information they could. Textbooks, stuff like that. That's how they were able to, well, learn anything. As they never really went to school because they got pulled out of it. They were tortured. They were slaves. They just never left the house. They were only able to leave when they were only able to leave every once in a while. But that still was rarely ever. And whenever they do, they would just usually go and find places to get food. So besides that, let's get back into this. Now, Eraserhead's looking at these two kids as he's then wondering why they're here. And he then yells out, hey kids, where's your parents? And why are you doing out here alone? As Izuku then thinks, this could be trouble. As he then thinks, we don't have parents, and we've lived here for almost 8 years. No. Yeah, almost 8 years. As Eraserhead then says, what's your quirks? And Wanda and Izuku don't feel like answering this question, as they didn't just stay quiet. As Eraserhead is starting to grow tired of this, and he also just thinks, maybe the girl's quirk is telekinesis, as that villain is still stuck there. Maybe. And then he's like, well, I'm gonna have to take you guys in if y'all don't have parents. And he then tries to erase their quirks. Didn't work, by the way. The villain is still there, just saying. And didn't work, by the way, as Wanda then picks up the villain and then pauses Aizawa in its place. And Izuku then grabs Aizawa by the forehead and basically full on Broly'd this nigga out of his forest. Like, he full on grabbed his face and ran at Mach speeds. How this didn't break Eraser's neck, I do not know. But for plot, it didn't. And Wanda, she just took the villain and chucked it straight next to Eraserhead. Both almost being unconscious, but the villain lost consciousness. Eraserhead didn't. Eraserhead's like, what? I thought I erased their quirks. What the hell? As he then gets up and he then proceeds to be like, I wonder. And he then looks next to him. He sees the villain unconscious, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna just take this and I'm gonna go talk to Nezu after this. As we cut back to Wanda and Izuku. Wanda and Izuku have just been chilling. Like, they've just been chilling. Like, after that, they got the food, they ended up cooking, then they ended up eating. And yeah. Now, Izuku would think to himself that guys might come back here with other people as Wanda noticed the concern on her brother's face and asked Izuku, "What's wrong?" As Izuku then replies, "Well, Wanda, that guy might come back here with other people." As Wanda asks, "What? Why?" As Izuku then says, "I think he was a hero." As Wanda would know about this stuff because Izuku would explain it to her, and he would then say he's probably gonna come back with the reinforcements to try and get us. So, is there a way we can like move the house? Wanda thinks about it for a second, and then she's like, "I'm not sure I'm strong enough to do that yet." As Izuku's in like, well, we're gonna have to deal with them when they come back. As Wanda's like, "Yeah, but I think it might be the same result as last time." You're probably right, Izuku states. As the two then go off and do their daily routine, they train, and then they go to sleep. As we cut to Eraserhead, who was doing his patrols the entire morning and the rest of the day and most of the night. I'm just joking, but yeah. The next day, Eraserhead remembers the kids as he had forgotten, as he had just went to go take the villain. As he then proceeds to go to Nezu's office and explain to him what happened, as Nezu is intrigued by this, and so he calls the staff meeting and also calls up All Might and Endeavor, just in case. As All Might then asks what happened and why were we called in, and Endeavor just asks, "Yeah, Nezu, why are we here?" The rest of the pro heroes are also questioning, as the staff, yeah. As Nezu then asks Aizawa to explain what happened, and Aizawa explains on how he basically got chucked out of a forest by a kid who could move faster than faster than he could even think. As as they just ask, "Why didn't you erase their quirks?" And Eraserhead then responds with, "Well, I tried that and I thought I did, but apparently not, considering the sister chucked the villain next to me and I got ragdolled through the entire forest and back to where I came in." As they can hear the annoyance in his voice, cause like, yo, Eraserhead, he was low-key salty about that. I can't even cap. Like, man's got ragdolled. I'm sorry, but if you got ragdolled that quickly by a kid, nonetheless, I'm pretty sure you'd be the same, almost the same level of annoyance. I can't even cap. As Endeavor then thinks to himself, could be a villain. As Aizawa then says, "You think 14-year-old kids could be villains?" They look around 14. They look like they're about to graduate middle school. And you think they're villains? Endeavor, are you serious? And Endeavor's like, I mean, they kind of ragdolled you and they live in a forest. Like, if that's not shady enough, the kids didn't even respond to you and ask you when you asked them what their quirks were, as you stated. So they probably might be villains. As All Might is thinking, maybe. As they then devise a plan to storm the house. Like they're gonna get past the borderline, but yeah. Let's humor them. As they make a plan and they put it into motion that same day. Izuku and Wanda had just woken up. Izuku went and helped cook breakfast along with his sister, who were just cooking. As they eat and When they're about to open up the door, Izuku sees a mist coming through the air vents. Potent. He then thinks to himself, they're here. As he grabs Wanda and he blitzes outside. Heroes are shocked because they didn't think that the kids would be able to think so quickly. Well, one of them anyway. As the heroes all rush at the kids as Wanda just stops them all in their place. And the only ones that seem to be able to struggle is All Might and Endeavor. As the heroes are asking Eraserhead erase their quirks, as Eraserhead just tries it and it does not work again. As All Might then breaks out of it and is about to punch Wanda, but Izuku moves her out of the way and just starts running away. As he drops Wanda a couple meters away from the teachers, as the teachers start running towards her, as they then think that the brother ran away. But little do they know, the brother has something up his sleeve. Izuku ran about 500 meters away. Yeah, in that span of time. And he then starts to go about, let's just say about a good quarter of his speed, his true speed. As yeah, he's still kind of young, not even going cap. He can't tap into a full percentage of it. Like, he'll be able to tap into all of his speed when he's around 20. I'm gonna say that, but he can only access about half. He's using a quarter of it right now. As he then goes about a quarter of his speed, and all they hear is a sonic boom as the sound barrier breaks 3 times in an instant. As they hear this, as Izuku's low-key pissed out All Might tried to punch his sister, as he punches All Might so fucking hard that All Might loses a damn tooth, as he then gets Sonic punched across the face. As All Might was sent flying back into the mountain, creating a bit of a crater. As All Might is like dazed, as the heroes are shocked by this, as they did not expect a kid to be able to knock not only the number one hero off his feet, but nearly knock his ass clean out. As All Might sees the kid, as he's thinking, motherfucker, as he then charges at Izuku. Izuku dodges again and punches All Might in the stomach. Not doing as much damage as it would, but it still does decent damage nonetheless. As Izuku then starts beating on All Might. As All Might, he's been using about 40% at this point. He charges up to 60 and knocks Izuku off. As Wanda's just keeping the other pro heroes in line. As she then separates the pro heroes and pushes half of them already out the forest. When she's about to push the other half, Endeavor breaks out of it and shoots a fireball at her. And Izuku, seeing this, runs towards his sister. And he grabs her and blitzes around towards Endeavor. As he then sucker punches Endeavor clean and gets knocked clean into All Might. As Izuku, he's now even more pissed, because if he wasn't there, his sister would have gotten a big hurt. So he does something, he's gonna do Endeavor wrong right now. As he then runs off. As he then starts winding his arm back. As he then starts spinning his arm. As he then starts running in a circle while spinning his arm. As he then starts generating energy by spinning his arm and running in a circle. As he then starts running towards Endeavor. This time with an electro-charged punch. He socks Endeavor clean in the jaw once again, except this time Endeavor's damn near unconscious. Like like shit, like Endeavor is almost done. As All Might then's like, you know what, fuck it. As Izuku was about to run away with Wanda, and All Might just charges up to 100 for a quick second and punches Izuku, knocking him out. The wind pressure knocking out Wanda in the process. When the other pro heroes were finally released from Wanda's spell, they then put quirk canceling handcuffs on the two, then take them over to UA. As when Izuku wakes up, I'm going to let you know these quirk dampening handcuffs do not work against them because they have evolved past it. Like literally, as I said. I'm going to say that now. I'm making them very broken, but here's the thing. Logically speaking, if a quirk was evolved to such a degree, it would be this broken. Like seriously, it would. Like nonetheless, it would be this broken if a quirk had literally evolved to this degree in the canon. Like seriously, if One for All, a quirk that is basically stockpiling and a transference quirk could boost up to such a degree, an evolutionized quirk would do damn near much better. Cannot cap. But that's besides the point. When the two wake up, they're in two separate rooms. As I said, they have separation anxiety. They cannot be separated for long periods of time. As Izuku then asks where's his sister in a panic. As Wanda is still unconscious, but is in the room next to him. As then Eraserhead comes in and starts questioning him. He's like, what's your name? Who are you? And why were you in the forest? As Izuku then says, where is my sister? In a much more dark tone this time. A silver aura clearly leaking. As it's also killing intent. As Eraserhead says, answer my question first. Who are you? And why were you in the forest? Izuku just responds with, where's my sister? And yeah. This just goes on for like a couple minutes, and when Wanda wakes up, it's Midnight who's interrogating her. And same process happens. As Izuku then starts thinking, do these actually work? As he then tries to stop. He then tries to slow down his perception of time again, and it works. And he's like, they're stupid, aren't they? As this time, when Eraserhead asks Izuku if what's his name, Izuku's eyes then just glow silver, and he then breaks out of it. The teachers who are watching this ordeal are just like, what? Didn't we put quirk canceling handcuffs on him? As Izuku then starts running around the room. Starts running on walls. Starts running around. As Wanda hears this and she's like, As she then starts to deconstruct the wall and creates a door and just walks through it. As the heroes see this and they're just like, oh fuck, we fucked up. Oh no, shit. And All Might and oh shit. And then Wanda reconstructs the wall and just and Izuku then just sits down just right next to him. Like seriously. She just sits down in a chair that's just right next to Izuku, and Izuku then just appears in that chair again. Like literally. And the teachers are just like, why are they still here if their quirks were not dampened? As I'm just saying this now. As yeah. they're both sitting right next to each other now, and they then calm down, and Eraserhead asks this question again, this time while signaling the teachers to go get more cord canceling handcuffs. As Izuku then says, "My name is Izuku Maximoff." And Wanda says her name is Wanda Maximoff. They abandoned the Midoriya name as, yeah, that brought nothing but pain to them. As they're just like, we have no record of an Izuku or Wanda Maximoff. As Izuku then looks to the side and then says, "Replace our last names with Midoriya and then you'll figure it out." As they then look him up and they were shocked at what they saw. And they were surprised by what they saw. They saw a boy with green hair, a girl with green hair, both with green eyes. And they also saw that they're quirkless and they were missing for 6 years. Since they were 6. They've been missing for 8 years. And Aizawa then pieces together that they were abandoned. But he doesn't understand why they look so different, as he did hear the boy say that they were living there for 8 years, meaning they've been living there since they were 6. So that means they're 14 now. So his presumption was correct. Eraserhead's thinking to himself right now. As All Might then thinks, all for one. Because how can somebody who's presumed quirkless have a quirk? They clearly have quirks. As Izuku then says, "No, we don't." As the teachers are like, "How did you hear that?" As Izuku's like, "Y'all aren't that quiet, and I just blitzed over to the window and I heard you. Simple. But we didn't even see you move. That's the point." Because like it was in a blink of an eye, and he just heard it, and he's like, "Oh fuck!" And then he thinks, "All right, let me try this." He's like, "I don't know what happened, but if I'll explain." As Izuku then asks Wanda to make some earmuffs and just put it over her head, as Wanda does, as yeah, she can like warp reality. She just created some earmuffs or just brought some out of thin air, put it on. As Izuku then begins to recount everything that happened from when they were 4 up until when they were 6 in that house. As the teachers hear everything, All Might feels like shit because he just presumed that they were villains. Endeavor, he's also starting to feel like shit because he has been treating his kids like shit and they've been treated much, much worse. And Aizawa then asks, that still leaves up one question. How did you guys get your powers? As Izuku then says, well, when we were thrown off a cliff. As the teachers are like, what? He's like, yeah, we were thrown clear off a cliff. Just telling you that now. As my sister ended up awakening her powers. And it was only for a brief moment, but we stopped falling. This slowed our descent greatly. But it didn't save us. What did was when I activated my powers while we were falling as well. My perception of time slowed down and it almost came to a complete halt. I saw my sister falling. I instinctively moved my arms in the direction of the cliff and started running on the wall, grabbed my sister and ran towards the ground, reaching it right before my quirk deactivated. And he then explains that then yeah, that's it. And they ask, wait, but how? You're quirkless. You shouldn't have been able to develop abilities. As they take him to Recovery Girl, and Recovery Girl then says, "Oh no, they don't have quirks," and they're just like, "What?" And he then says, "They have something much more. I don't know. It's not a quirk, but more of a genetic abnormality. It seems that they have evolved past the stage of having a quirk. They have something beyond that." As the teachers are thinking, hmm, but some are in disbelief, like, how can something be evolved past the quirk? As then the teacher then says, well, not the teacher, but Recovery Girl then just says, well, it looks as though their abilities come from a genetic abnormality created in their genome at birth. This abnormality, once activated, causes their bodies to change and activates hidden or latent abilities that they never once had. Which is probably why your guys' quirk dampening handcuffs and Eraserhead's quirk can't work on them. And since it's also technically a mutation as well, it can't be taken or dampened. As yeah, I'm gonna say that now. They cannot dampen their powers. I'm not giving them the fucking X. I'm not giving them the fucking X handcuffs from X-Men that's able to fucking like really like truly straight up. I don't know what was it called. Uh, it was able to like cut off their like turn off their powers. But yeah, as Endeavor is still a little bit salty that he got almost knocked unconscious. Same with All Might, as it was only by a kid who was apparently not even trying. So yeah, as the Eraserhead then brings up something else, but that doesn't explain how the house got there. As Wanda just says, well, I'm able to sometimes warp reality. And yeah, that was a shocker to them, except for Izuku. As Izuku then just says, yup. As they didn't think these kids could be very good heroes. And Nezu's like, alright, now I want you guys for the entrance exam is in 10 months. Since you already have a house in the forest, we will allow you to stay there. But we'll be setting up a connection from there to UA. And in 10 months you will take the entrance exams. You can choose to go into the recommended or you can get the amount of points yourself. But nonetheless, you will be attending UA, as the two don't know what UA is because they've never been to school. They've just been learning out of textbooks. So Izuku then asks Nezu, "What's UA?" Wanda also questioned as well. Just asks that as well. What's UA? They say it at the same time. As Nezu then explains what a school is and what high school is UA and how it's the most prestigious school in the country, then they're just like, alright, alright. As, yeah. Now, this is going to be the end of this episode. Episode, yeah. This is going to be the end of this part. This is going to be the end of this part, and, without further ado, I would like to say I am sorry once again for not uploading. I will be uploading more. And I will be uploading part 3 of What If Deku had the Sharingan right after this. So, without further ado, time to get into... Sorry. I haven't been able to speak well recently, so, yeah. Without further ado, goodbye. Peace.